my YouTube channel. If you're new here, my name is Kristine Kugler. I just previously worked for Royal Caribbean on the Odyssey of the Seas and recently finished my first contract as a professional dancer on that ship. Right now, I'm currently between contracts, spending time at home, but it's the perfect time to reflect and look back on ship life and tell you about what it really is like to live on a cruise ship. I loved every second of living on the ship, but it is real life and it's still a job, it's still work, and so I'm here to tell you guys the truth about ship life, the pros and cons, what I loved and maybe not loved so much about the ship. But as you guys know, if you follow this channel, you know this was my dream job. It feels like a blessing that I've ever even experienced it, and I'm so excited to see where life takes me in the future. It is such a privilege to have such a unique job like this. I know most people in their life don't have the opportunity to live on a cruise ship, and even if you do, maybe you have a job in a different department. I want to speak on my experience as a dancer in entertainment on the cruise ship and tell you guys the ins and outs of what it's really like. My contract was 11 months and we were on the ship for approximately 9 months in total. I have a list of pros and a list of cons. If I say something as a con, there's probably pros attached to that too. So this is just my relative experience, what I took away from ship life. I hope you enjoy, learn something new, and maybe gain a new perspective for anyone who works on a cruise ship. My first pro is learning and adapting to people from every different country. You get to meet people from all around the world. You're surrounded by different cultures, different languages. It's so interesting to learn more about other people and know where they're from. It really gives you a perspective of how little your world may be, because there's just so much more to know. There are so many different languages and cultures, religions, values. That was one of my favorite things about ship life. One con that's attached to that is just having friends all over the world. So as soon as you sign off from the ship, you never know when you're gonna see them again or if you'll see them again, and some of the closest bonds you make with people are now spread out around the world, which again is such a beautiful thing, but is a con because you get close to people that you do eventually have to say goodbye to and don't live near you, or maybe even in the same country as you. A huge pro for me is I get to do a job that I love. If you guys want to check out some of my other videos, I talk about how I became a dancer for Royal Caribbean. Basically, cruise ship dancing has been a dream of mine ever since I was little, and being able to perform for guests and dancing and having beautiful costumes, beautiful choreography, performing on the ship was just a dream come true. So having a job that I'm so passionate about is just a huge pro to me, and honestly, the main reason I'm on the ship. Another con is that you do not have any break time on your contract. You are on contract for, in my case, 11 months. There's no time you go home. There's no time you just don't perform. You are on contract, you are working for those 11 months. And unless you're blessed with family and friends who come visit, there's not really a break time where you go home. Surprisingly, this is a question I get a lot. A lot of people don't believe that I'm technically on duty for 11 straight months. We are on contract for that entire length of time. But yeah, so technically there's no break to be off duty. Another huge reason that people love working on ships is you are able to save so much money, especially because we are taken care of on the ship. We don't have to pay for food, we don't have to pay any electrical bills, we don't have to pay any rent. Things like that are all things that add up a lot when you live on land. For me, rent and gas is a big one when I'm back home, and those are expenses that I don't have when I'm on the ship, which was very much appreciated. We are also insured under the company while we are on the ship and on contract, so that's also a nice expense we don't have to worry about. My splurging would be on Wi-Fi, snacks, and a nice meal on port days. For the most part, you have way more expenses back home than you would while you're living on a cruise ship. Another con about living on a ship is what many people love to comment about on my cruise ship cabin tour video, which is we don't have that much space. And yes, that is true. There's very, very limited space. I like to say that I have enough space to live, but no more than that. So all those extra things that you buy to maybe add on to your quality of life back home, you don't have space for on the ship. We have space to have a wardrobe, but we can't have every option in the world, and by the end of the contract, everyone has seen us in every single outfit we have at least 10 times. because we just don't have space for the luxury to switch up our wardrobe or maybe make a lot of purchases. And for me personally, I did not make near as many purchases on clothes or shoes or anything like that on board, whereas I do on land. If you see my cruise ship cabin tour video, that's where you can see all the space we have in our cabin. I think it takes a certain personality to deal with that, because it could feel very, very congested very quickly if you don't have the mindset to adapt to a situation like that. Personally, I wasn't too bothered with it. It wasn't too hard for me to be minimalistic compared to my life back home. But yes, it's just something to consider. Everyone's different and some people may feel more claustrophobic than others. Another pro to living on the ship is we get to live somewhere and take advantage of things that people are spending thousands of dollars to enjoy. So let me state the obvious and say we are not guests. We don't have all the privileges that guests have, but overall we are living on a vessel that people are spending thousands of dollars to enjoy. That was honestly one of the most humbling factors to me. If I ever felt like the ship was very small, if I ever got homesick, I just would remember how many people were on board that were paying for this experience that I got to enjoy every single day. And of course, guests can have more experiences than crew, but even just walking the track and being able to see the ocean view is something that people dream about, and we can take advantage of it every single day. We're literally living where people vacation. Another con, and I'm gonna kind of combine these, but it's limited food, Wi-Fi, and access to things. Everyone will have a different opinion of the mess, and I think every ship is completely different. I can't lie, the quality of the food is not amazing. It is free. It seems like a lot of options once you come on board, but after you've been eating the same rotation of food for 9 months at a time, it gets extremely repetitive. I'm not a very picky person, so it's not hard for me. If I sometimes didn't like what was at dinner, I can easily make myself a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, you know? If you are a picky eater or you have a limited diet and you're gluten-free, vegan, they try to accommodate for you, and there are options, but still nowhere as near as many options as you are able to find on land or in a supermarket. Now for Wi-Fi does cost us $3.99 an hour. And it's really, really slow. You didn't want to spend your hour on TikTok. Let's just say that. You would probably spend more time loading a TikTok than you would actually watching them. There was no chance I could upload a YouTube video on that Wi-Fi. In relation, it is very expensive for very slow Wi-Fi. It's definitely very easy to buy Wi-Fi when you're on a sea day and there's no land around. Everyone is different, but usually I try to stick to only buying 2 to 3 packages a cruise, because that money can add up very, very quick. Just scrolling through Instagram, your Wi-Fi would go like this. And then the last one is access to things. We're traveling all around the world and we are at ports that may not have access to a grocery store with groceries that you're used to. They may be in different languages, or they may just not be what you're looking for, but your access is not as quick and not as efficient as it is living on land. And personally, as someone who lives in the United States, things are very accessible to us. We are very, very quick. Our Western civilization is very quick to purchase, buy, get exactly what we need very, very fast. Amazon Prime, all of those things, that does not exist on ship life. It's definitely something to consider. If you're on board, you will not have quick access to things as much as you will on land. Another huge pro to living on a ship is the destinations and itineraries that you are able to travel to for free. Not even for free, you're getting paid to travel all around the world. When our ship was in the Caribbean, we got to travel all around these little islands, the Bahamas, Grand Cayman, Aruba, places like that. And then when we went to the Mediterranean, we were exploring Greece, Italy, Turkey, even a little bit of Spain and France. Being able to experience those places and also being paid, that's literally the reason people want to work for a cruise line. If you guys have watched my channel at all, you know that I love to travel anywhere I can, whether I'm working to travel or not. I'm just a huge traveler. Literally, my necklace, I bought this in Mykonos. It's a little globe because it's just so important to me. I'm so passionate about travel. I want to explore as much of the world as I can. And I totally understand that traveling is very expensive. Trust me, I know. Especially traveling to different countries and different continents, those plane tickets could cost so much money. So I think as a young girl in my 20s, one of the absolute best ways I can travel is through my job. And that is just such a blessing. It's something I never take for granted. And it is probably one of the biggest pros of the entire career. I also love that since we are on a rotation for many of the different ports, we start to become locals. We get to know many local businesses. We know all the best spots. We find hidden beaches or maybe places that tourists don't normally go to if they're only at this port one time. So that is honestly my favorite part about getting to know a port, is just becoming a local and knowing all the best spots. And now if someone asks me about a place that I could travel, I could give them several recommendations, several food and shopping recommendations, and we're able to really get to know these ports of call that we're traveling to. Another con about living on a ship is missing life milestones. Because we all get so close on the ship, we all talk about what's happening back home, and many people have to miss weddings and birthdays, holidays, births. There's just so much that is missed when you're abroad, and it does kind of come with the job because many of these contracts are almost a whole year long, and I have many friends who haven't been home for Christmas in years. Living such a unique lifestyle does come with the cons of missing that day-to-day life and routine and big life milestones that may be happening back home. Another huge pro that I absolutely loved about working on a ship was you get to live and work with your best friends. As many of you guys know, as a dancer, we are in a cast. My cast had 25 people with singers, dancers, and showgirls, and we just all got so close because you are living and working with these people the entire length of your contract. Of course, we can talk about the obvious cons. You are literally attached to the hip with many people for a very long time. Of course, drama happens, things like that, they're just always gonna happen. But for the most part, what I loved about being in a cast is there's 25 people that you could get to know and going through the same things, doing the same job, also living in small cabins. Like, we're all going through the exact same thing. It's just such a blessing. I mean, through ship life, I've met now people I consider my best friends, people that are gonna be bridesmaids in my wedding one day, and it's just such a different bond. I've recently reunited with many of them, and I just tell them they feel like home. Everyone who was in my Audi cast, love you guys. And the other side of that is when you get back home, no one really understands what you just did. I've talked to people who don't even know there's shows on a cruise ship, so I'm like, you definitely don't know what I do for a living. And it feels like a different life and a whole bubble that you have to pop when you come home. It's just the strangest feeling. I just feel like we all have that special bond from living and working together for so long. Another con about ship life is that emotions are heightened when you are on a ship. For one thing, you are honestly never alone because you have a roommate, you work with co-workers, so unless you look for it, there's not a lot of time you can spend to yourself, by yourself, because you're surrounded by all those friends, which again is an amazing thing, but it definitely leads to emotions being intensified. You are in such a condensed setting with the same people. You are in a world that no one really understands. You're in the middle of the ocean. It can definitely become a mental battle for people if you are not prepared to live in small quarters like that. And with that, when things are happening back home, your perspective on a ship is just so crazy. This is where I think that personality has a lot to do with if you're able to live ship life, because it does take a bit of mental strength to get yourself through hard times. You don't have the access to fix problems as immediate as you do when you're on land. Sometimes you just don't know what you're feeling. It is very hard to go through a personal struggle, especially something that's happening back home, when you have a time difference and you're across the ocean, and especially when you're not at a port and you're in the middle of the ocean and have to deal with an issue back home. It can be very challenging. So it can be really hard to go through something like that, but at the same time, for me, it was so healing to be around my friends and to be exploring these different ports. It's a great distraction, and your job is such a blessing. Like, the entire time I was on the ship, I couldn't believe this is my career. I still get imposter syndrome to this day that I get paid to dance, first of all, and then to travel the world. It's just the craziest feeling, and I feel so blessed every day. And I think that thought keeps me very humbled, keeps me very happy to be on the ship and always looking for new memories, new experiences, and keeps my brain very healthy. There's even more I can talk about. I mean, I lived on a ship for 9 months, so lots of things happened within those 9 months. If you guys want to hear more or you have any questions, feel free to comment them down below. Make sure you like this video if you learned anything. If you get to this point of the video, I'd love to know where you're watching from, because I love to know where people are in the world. Follow my Instagram so you make sure you stay tuned on where I am in the world. Wherever you are in the world, I hope you're having the very best day, and make sure you stay tuned so you see my crazy little life traveling around the world. All right, see you soon.